David Kelly, thanks for joining us, mate. First of all, how did you move? Come about to Newcastle United?
Well, Brian Little, who was manager of Leicester City, left me out the team. So on the Saturday, the person that replaced me, a guy called Colin Gordon, scored a hat-trick on the Saturday for Leicester. So I went in to see Brian Little and said, why didn't I play? And he went, well, you haven't scored, Ned, for 7 or 8 games. He said, so, I've changed the team round. And I said to him, well, if I'm not in the team in the next week or so, I said, I ain't staying here. I said, I don't want to play reserve team football. I said, so I just want to play first team football. And his words to me were, you've only been out the team for a week, Ned. And I went, that's not the point, Gaffer. I said, I just want to play in the first team. I don't want to play reserves. I just want to play in the first team. So about a week later, he phoned me up and he said, you're going to be sold. He said, there's 3 clubs after you. And this is how ironic this one is. He said, Sunderland have asked about you. Wolves have asked about you in Newcastle. And I said to my uncle, who was at the game on the Saturday, I said, I've got these 3 clubs. And he said, you've got to go to Newcastle. He said, if you're successful as a number 9 at Newcastle, you'll never ever be forgotten.
And you took that advice. And
I took that advice. And the ironic part of it all was that I played for all of those 3 clubs.
You did?
Yeah.
Is it true Ozzy Ardiles was the man who stumped up the cash to bring you in?
Yeah, Ozzy was gaffer. Remember Tony Galvin used to play for Ireland?
Yeah.
Galv was with Ozzy. They'd been together at Tottenham and stuff like that, so he was sort of first team coach. I remember getting to the old training ground at Benwell thinking, wait, it's fucking freezing up here. It was absolutely Baltic, and like the old training ground was like wooden shacks and stuff like that, wasn't it? It wasn't. I just left Leicester, and Leicester, their training ground was pretty decent, to be fair, at Leicester. Mm-hmm. And I just left Leicester and came up to Newcastle, and I thought, bloody hell, this is bleak up here.
Nobby's got the reputation of bringing the youngsters through, so I suppose you saw the likes of Lee Clark and Steve Howie and other well-known faces, Alan Thompson, Steve Watson. Yeah. You saw them all at their infancy when you got to the training ground.
I did, yeah. There was Kevin Scott as well. Tommy Wright was keeper, and it was Quinny was there, Andy Hunt was there. We actually had a really good team. But we just couldn't get many results. That was the issue. And Ozzy trying to he wanted to sign a striker that could hopefully get a few goals. To avoid relegation, basically.
Mm. Well, I mean, just before we move on to KK, what was it like? With Ozzy. I mean, was he good on the training ground?
Yeah, I really liked Ozzy. I really got on with him really well. He was, he wanted to play, the beautiful game, really. But unfortunately for us, at that time we hadn't got a group of lads who could implement what he wanted. He was one of the perfect footballers, wasn't he, Ozzy, as a player? Mm. He was one of the best players in the world. I mean, he won everything, didn't he?
Yeah.
He was absolutely fabulous. But we never had a good enough squad. We never had enough quality in depth for us to, implement how he wanted to play.
And
that's how I saw it. We had all these wonderful young players, really good players, all of them. Clarkey was. You could see Clarkey was going to be special. Aaron Thompson was a good player. Wasso and Steve Howie, and all of these lads that eventually went on to do really, really well with the club were just not ready at the time.
Mm, that's right. And the fee. What was the fee that Ozzy actually ended up paying for you?
I can't remember, to be fair, mate.
Yeah, we'll have to look at that. Oh,
250, something like that, I think.
Yeah. That's a hell of a chunk of money, for anybody now. But even back in those days, that was a phenomenal amount of money. He got his money back though, but he lost his job. What was it like for you? To then hear that a man who'd been playing golf for 7 years in Marbella and had never managed a football club. What was it like to hear Kevin Keegan was coming in?
It was weird because we. So John was like, was in and around and stuff like that at that time, because it was the start of of him being at the football club, and there was a rumour going round in the club that he was getting Keegan in. And it was literally one of them. Well, where's he been? What's he been doing? What clubs he been at? Where's he been coaching? Has he been coaching? And it was like I suppose it was like a form of entertainment, really, because everybody, and press-wise and supporters-wise, and I'd got quite a few pals up there. I'd been at the club for a bit, and I'd got friends who were Newcastle fans, and everybody it was like a little bit of disbelief.
Unbelievable to see Kevin come in and everything that he'd done for the club as a player, of course, between 1982 and 84. What's your first memories of Keegan on the training ground? What was training like under Kevin?
Training was like small-sided games and finishing sessions and attack versus defence, and the whole of the emphasis on all the training sessions, I thought, was like trying to outscore anybody. And I thought, this is right up my street. It's like attack. This is brilliant. And to be fair, he used to join in, and he was decent. I know he'd been on the golf course for quite a few years, but he was absolutely decent on the pitch. But Derek Fazackley, was a really, really important part of the team, because Faz knew set plays, Faz knew patterns of play, Faz knew all sorts of different footballing intricacies, I suppose. Faz took quite a bit of the training. He'd done quite a lot of the defensive work and stuff like that. So, and Kevin just concentrated on having a good time and having a bit of a laugh with everybody, and everything being brilliant, and we're going to be better than whoever the opponents are at the weekend.
What was Terry Mack's role?
Well, Terry was the joker, wasn't he? Terry was like the assistant manager that didn't seem to do. I'm not being disrespectful here whatsoever. He didn't seem to do a fat lot, but he was always there, involved in everything. Mm. And I remember Kevin calling him his buffer all those years ago. And I think that's what it was. I think they had such a good relationship, and of course they still do to this day. They had a brilliant relationship between the two of them. That he trusted him in what he thought. And I would imagine that they picked the team together. They, chose the players together. Having been an assistant myself for the last 20 odd years, I know how important it is to have somebody that you can believe in, that's standing next to you. And when you turn round to him and say, "What do you think?" you know that he's going to give you the honest answer.
It's hard to believe for Newcastle fans now, but Newcastle, didn't fill the ground on those early days that you played at St James's Park. But Kevin's arrival as manager, can you remember that Bristol game at home, the first home game? I mean, there was people queuing round the ground to get in, wasn't there? And there was a new sense of optimism.
There was. It's weird because players have got all habits. Whatever habits you've got for match day. Whether you put your boots on the left foot or your right foot or whatever. But everybody's got habits, and you used to. We'd all had different sort of versions of what made us hopefully tick in the game. And I always used to get to the ground quite early because I'm a bugger for never being late. I don't like being late. It's I always thought it was bad manners. So I'm always early, and I can remember coming into the game against Bristol on Kevin's first game, and there was thousands of people around the ground. And I'm thinking to myself, it's going to take a while to get on this car park. There's going to be lads. Some of the lads are going to be late for this because nobody's expecting this many people to be here. And I can remember getting on the car park and then trying to get into the ground. It's completely, as you know, Steve, the ground's completely different now. The car park was at the front by the main entrance where the atrium is now. That was the car park, and you just walk up into the ground. But there was thousands there, and I thought, right, this is different. This is massively different.
You played in some great games that particular season. Newcastle, for those who don't know, were obviously fighting relegation to the old third division. They'd never been to that level. So it was a hell of a job for Kevin and the players to try and get out of that. But there were some key games, and you played in a derby against Sunderland. What was that like for you, David?
Yeah, the derby games are brilliant. Just going back to the Bristol City game, we couldn't have started off any better for him because, you know, we scored. I think it was 3-0, wasn't it? It was 3-0.
It was.
3-1.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, so the actual kick-off to it was like, you know, full of like sort of hope, and I think the expectation level all of a sudden changed from the week before where we were losing, and then we get to the Bristol City game, and it's as if like the magician had turned up, and all the fortunes are going to change really quickly. But obviously in a relegation battle that doesn't happen, you know. But playing a derby game is the best game to play in, for whatever club you're at, because it means so much. It always means so. I'm like now with. You know, I'm a West Brom fan, and I do commentaries for the Wolves. And West Brom Wolves is a great game, and you know, Blues Villa is a great game. Liverpool Everton is a great game. Newcastle Sunderland, and there's proper derbies all over the country, and they are so important because they're bragging rights. Supporters want to beat their local rival.
You scored the winning goal, David.
I did.
Can you remember much about it?
Yeah, I can remember an awful lot of my goals, and especially on a derby. Yeah, you know, because it just meant. I can remember. Do you remember Liam O'Brien's free kick at Roker?
I was there.
That was. I still think that was one of the best goals that I'd been involved in football, and Liam scored it. It was nothing to do with me. Liam took the free kick. Because it was just like sort of euphoric. I just can remember celebrating it. It was just unbelievable. You know, and my goal against Sunderland was it was just they are extra. They whatever anybody says about, you know, that's just another goal. That's a load of bollocks. They are extra special, especially when you win.
The goal that everyone remembers you for, of course, apart from the derby goal, is 25th of April 1992, 26,000 at the terraced Gallagher's End. Sucked the ball in, I think we could say, David, because it was a solitary strike against Portsmouth, and a game which secured Newcastle's safety. What a goal to score in our history.
Yeah, it was a special goal, and you said earlier on about, you know, your favourite goals. That is my favourite Newcastle goal, without doubt. Because of the importance of it, you know, and it was weird because I said this a while ago that I thought that I'd scored that from outside the penalty. I didn't score many goals from outside the penalty box. I was like more of a sniffer, sort of, you know, the 6 yard line, 6 yard area, 10-yard area, and I thought for years and years that goal was from outside the penalty box, and I watched it back about a year ago or two. And realised it was about 5 yards inside, so it wasn't as good as I remember it. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was like outside the penalty box, and I smashed it in the far top corner. And when I watched it on YouTube, I realised that I was 5 yards inside the box.
Can you tell us what a typical Kevin Keegan team talk was like?
Yes, very simple. Right, we've got better players than they have. This is how we're going to attack. We're going to close the ball down really quickly. He'd say to Gavin Peacock on many occasions, don't track back, Ned, and say to me, Ned, don't track back. Where I was a different player to Gav. I was a runner. I used to run around everywhere, and I'd like sort of harry people and force people into mistakes and stuff like that. And I can remember Gavin standing on the left-hand side of the pitch in one of the games, and I'm thinking, what is he doing? And he went, he's told me not to track back. And I'm having a conversation with Gav on the pitch about, the reasons that we're standing still up front and we haven't got to get involved in any defending. It was bizarre, but it was just one of his traits that he just wanted to leave as many players up front and, sort of get the ball back as quickly as possible and attack.
What was your relationship with Gavin Peacock like? There's always been stories circulating Tyneside that it wasn't as friendly as we all thought. There's obviously there was an incident, wasn't there, over a penalty kick as well. Is it? Tell us the truth behind that. Was it all good-hearted?
Gav was the nuts and bolts of all of it was Gav was a goal scorer and so was I, and I wanted to score and so did Gav, and at times. When he didn't pass to me and I didn't pass to him, we told each other what we thought of him. But I love Gav. Gav is a proper, brilliant human being. He's a great lad, and we might have had a few disagreements on the pitch, but it was only ever to do with being better for the team. As much as if I didn't pass to him and he'd have been cleaning. Then that's for the betterment of the team, and that's my fault. If he doesn't pass to me when I'm cleaning on goal, and he takes a shot and he misses. If he obviously when you score, it makes no difference because that's what you're supposed to be doing. But when there's quite a few different occasions where we both could have passed to each other, but we didn't because we were selfish strikers.
Great stuff. The following season was a completely different affair, and Newcastle, of course, went on this wonderful run at the start of the season where they just couldn't be beaten, David.
Well, when you think about going back to Terry and Kevin's relationship as the assistant and the manager, you look at the players that we brought in towards the end of the season with like Coley and other players just before the season finished. Going back with getting like the Kevin Sheedy and getting Brian Kilcline and getting Venison and then Berison. All these players sort of came in at different stages. Rob Lee was a fantastic signing. All these different players were being signed at different times, strengthening the team. So that pre-season, when we'd stayed up, that pre-season was really important because Kevin brought in quite a few new faces and consequently what he brought in was better players. We still had the gang of like young players, Clarkey and Watto and all of that group, Tomo and those lads. So we still got them, but he brought in seasoned pros. And that run that we had, Kevin Bracewell, what a signing Brace was.
Paul Bracewell, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, what did I say? Kevin, yeah. Paul, sorry.
Yeah,
Paul Bracewell. He was a brilliant signing for a certain period of time, Brace. He was really, really good. So the expectation level went through the roof in the summer because he was buying lots of different players. And we were going to be better and we were going to be challenging. And we had pre-season. I don't think we lost a game in that pre-season. I might be wrong on that. I think we might have lost one game, but we didn't lose much more than one. But the expectation was right. We're going to be right up there, challenging. And nobody would have guessed that we'd win the first, 10 or 11?
12 games, yeah. We ended up. We went to Sunderland, I think, and then we ended up playing at home to Grimsby, and a guy called Dobbin got the winner to stop the run.
Was that game 12 or game 11?
Game 12, I think.
But who wins the first 11? Who wins the first 10, 11 games in the season? Nobody. Yeah. It doesn't happen very often. But we did. But that was because of the business Kevin had done in the summer. And we were a much stronger, much more balanced team. We'd got really good players in all over the pitch.
Yeah, an incredible run, an incredible season, and as you mentioned as well, we brought in a young Andrew Cole as well, who would
Cole come in about the March, didn't he? At the end, yeah. And you could he came on the training ground in the first training session, and we were having a five-a-side competition, and he must have scored 4 or 5 goals in, and I thought to myself, this kid's the real deal. Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
And he was just a magnificent goal scorer.
obviously we got promoted that season, and we finished off with a wonderful game against Leicester City, and we couldn't have gone from one polar opposite to the other. Your important goal against Portsmouth was then followed, of course, by a game down at Leicester City the previous season where Newcastle won 2-1. Amazing, I was down there at that particular match to stay up, and then 12 months later we play Leicester City at home, crowned champions. 6-0 up at half-time. We eventually win the game 7-1 and you grab a hat-trick.
Yeah, I've still got that ball somewhere in my garage somewhere, I think it is. Yeah, yeah, that was, I mean, it ironic really again, because, you know, I enjoyed myself so much at Leicester. It was a really, really good club. I'd had a difficult time at West Ham before I went to Leicester, and I sort of rebuilt my career, I suppose. You know, so it was always it was always a difficult game for me, really, because, you know, I knew lots of people at the club and lots of the staff and the players and stuff, you know, but ultimately you're there to do a job and you're there to win. So it's quite ironic that both seasons, the staying up season and the getting promoted season, our last game was against Leicester.
Can you remember the home game? What was it like coming back onto the pitch and just doing that walk around on the pitch? And of course, Big Pavel was there. Lee Clark had given him the Pavel as a Geordie T-shirt. Just tell us a little bit about what it was like taking the acclaim that day from the supporters who'd been in the doldrums for years. Yeah,
well, I think that we won the league with about a month to go, didn't we? We were
won it at Grimsby.
Was partying for weeks. You know, we won it at Grimsby. I remember coming back from Grimsby and Kevin trying to stop at a pub, and the pub was closed, so we couldn't get in the pub because it was closed. It was too late. He was trying to pull the coach over us somewhere on the way back between Grimsby and Newcastle. But that day of actually, you know, being crowned champions and being given the trophy and all that sort of stuff, he's obviously really, really special. And, you know, there's plenty of photographs floating out there about that team, and it just shows you the difference in quality of that team to the team that we had the year before when we stayed up. You know, there was big players in that team, and there was big players that were gonna do very well in the Premier League.
Can you remember much about the night at the Civic Centre? Because we did an open top bus through the town as well, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Haven't got a clue. It could have been anywhere. But don't forget, we'd won it like sort of 3 or 4 weeks before, so, you know, we'd had loads of time to have loads of different parties. It was great.
Best player you played with at Newcastle?
So you give us 10 seconds. There's somebody at my gate right there.
Okay, mate.
Oh, that's a difficult one. That's a really difficult one, because Gavin was in that first year. Gav was the best player I played with in that first year, definitely, because he was just a really, really intelligent player. The second year, God, who would be the second year? I would probably say Clarkey. Yeah, because he was so reliable, you know. And I think him and I played the most games that second year. Most appearances, the two of us, we played in near enough the whole of the season. So I'd say, yeah, Gav the first season, Clarkey the second.
Last couple of questions. Funny story? Have you got a funny story from your time at Newcastle?
I've got when I left. You heard that before, though, haven't you?
Yeah, well, let's do that then. If that's a story you want to go, tell us about that.
Yeah, they driving down to Birmingham after we'd won the league. Got a call off Kevin to out the blue, really, and I said, "All right, Gaffer." He went, "All right, Ned." He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to Birmingham. I'm going home for a couple of weeks." He went, "Listen," he said. I said, "Are you flogging me?" He went, "Well," he said, I said, "Well," I said, "Are you getting rid of me?" He said, "Well, I've had a couple of bids for you." He says, "And Ned," he said, "I know what you like." He said, if you're going to be a substitute for me," he said, "you're going to be a bloody nightmare." He said, "I know that." He said, "Because I know that you just want to play." He said, "I know, you know that from talking to you. You just want to play in the first team. You don't want to, as I said earlier on, you don't want to play reserve team football. You just want to play in the first team." I said, "Go on then." I said, "Who is it then?" He said, "I can't tell you just yet." I said, "Well, who are you signing?" He said, "I can't tell you that." I said, "Well, I'm not going then." I said, "What do you mean you're not going?" I said, I'm not going unless you tell me who you're signing. He went, I can't. He said, it's not been sorted out. And I went, I ain't going then, Gaffer. So I had a little bit of a mini argument with him. So we put the phone down on each other. He phones me back a bit later. And he says, right, he says, come on. He said, it's the Wolves. He said, I've got Wolves and Nottingham Forest. He said, are interested in you. I said, sound. I said, I'll go and speak to him. I said, but I'm not going unless you tell me who you're signing. He said, I can't. I said, Gaffer, I'm not going to tell anybody, am I? I said, come on, I'm not going to tell anybody. And he went, I'm signing Peter Beardsley. And I said, fuck me. These were my exact words. I went, fuck me, Gaffer. I'd sign Peter Beardsley instead of David Kelly.
Great stuff.
And he burst out laughing. And he said, right, he said, you're going to go and speak to him then? I said, yeah. I said, I've got 12 months left. So I said, so I want bits and bobs with my money and stuff like that. I said, but I'll go and have a chat with him. I said, but, fair play. I said, you're just trying to get better players. And that was it. That was our conversation. He was trying to get better players. And with no disrespect to me, Peter Beardsley was better than me.
You obviously watched from afar as Newcastle progressed. That just your opinion, and I've asked all the lads who stayed on and the lads who've left. Why do you think Newcastle didn't win the league that season? That Manchester United pipped them. The 12-point gap. Was it down to inexperience? Was it down to just the fact that Manchester United were better? What was your opinion as you watched that unfold?
Purely and simply, United were the better group. That's as I see it. You win it because you're the better group. Whatever people say, we were this and that, we were unlucky and we should have done this and we should have done that. No, because all the decisions that you're making during the build-up to the end of the season coming, you're doing them for the right reason. You're doing them all for the right reason. But the best group always win the league. Always. We were the best group when we won it in '93 by a country mile. And United were the best group that year. City have been the best group in the last couple of years, haven't they? Yeah.
Last question: just how important are the fans to Newcastle United players?
Well, the be all and end all of any football club are the supporters, because they are the only constant. Owners come and go, players come and go, managers come and go. The supporters, the faithful, are always there supporting. And they whichever football club and whichever team you support, the most important part of any club is the fan base, the supporters.
David Kelly, thanks very much for your time, mate.
Steve, no problem, kid.